Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Fair Game Friday, Free Flower Friday here on the Glen Biegel Show. And what a day. Holy smokes. I guess KOAN and KVNT have been informed by the coffee campaign that there will be repercussions should we find and then play a tape of his interaction, the butt dial with Bill Starr. Who was the guy who was listening in on that? Somebody else who was on the...
Alan Teshy.
Alan Teshy. Can you imagine a worse situation?
The late Alan Teshy.
The late Alan Teshy. Well, this happened back in 2008, and surprisingly, the media just picked up on it 2 days ago. I have lots of thoughts about this whole thing, and I never, ever did on the air express how I was going to approach the this election because it has a lot to do with this situation. Anyway, I'm looking forward to revealing exactly my thoughts on this, hearing your thoughts on this. What do you make of Coffee's interaction with Starr, recorded by Alan Teshy? Do we have the recording, and can Dan Coffey and his campaign actually stop KOAN and KVNT from playing the recording? Because that's the nature of the situation at this point. Is what is it that is public? What is it called if something is out in the public and everybody knows about it? When can you stop somebody in the media from saying something, and when can't you? I don't know where all those lines are, but they're in discussions right now. So we'll have some information about it, but I don't think we'll have anything conclusory until next week about this Dan Coffey recording. Now, he's put the whole transcript of his.
It's a partial transcript.
Oh, his is a partial transcript.
From what I understand from his quotes in the stuff I read, he says that he's already put out a partial transcript about it.
Oh, he's put out a partial. Okay, so we may have more than what is, and I didn't even know if we do. But that will all come out next week. Today, I'll describe exactly what I think of politics as it is. And it's not a good thing. I do have to tell you that. I don't like politics. It really makes me mad. Who got mad at me? Paul Bauer. Paul Bauer was mad at me. Paul Bauer was mad at me because I gave $100 and helped do a fundraiser for Amy Domboski, who is, I think, at Lamb. She matches up with me on everything, and she actually schooled me in one of the things. She's on the assembly, so she knows a lot more about what goes on in the assembly than I do. I mean, let's just be quite frank. I have a full-time job. I'm trying to do this, and I didn't even know how many children. It seems like more every other day. But she knew more about this one spending bill than I did. And I said, you know what? If it's going to be a multi-purpose, multi-use facility, my kids are over at the Subway and AT&T sports arenas all the time. And I love those things. And we haven't built any new ones. And anyway, so they were going to build one from the city. And she kind of got wind that it wasn't necessarily multi-use sports arena. It was going to mostly be for the tennis players. Did you know there are 10,000 tennis players, by the way?
That can't be real.
I think there might be
maybe in the U.S.
10,000 tennis players who have ever picked up a racket, something like that. I think it's the numbers higher. It's like 11 or 12,000. Anyway, they seem like they wanted their own facility, but I thought it was a multi-use facility. I thought there was going to be basketball courts, and there was going to be badminton and roller derby. I mean, there's a lot of roller derby people who are over at that other. Volleyball was another. That's a huge sport. Anyway, then you have 50 people on court at a time. You don't have 2 or 4, which I have a real problem with. I don't mind if there's one tennis court there. So she schooled me on that, and I got a lot of respect from her out of that. She stayed strong. It wasn't like, I don't get into really tit for tat kind of back and forth type of thing. I got my opinion about things. I don't mind these kind of public facilities. I don't mind spending my tax dollars on them. They're okay. We all use them. It makes our society better. It gives kids something to do. I don't go to a high school. I have to let people understand this. I am paying thousands of dollars every year for facilities at their high school. Where are my facilities? Well, what I need is about $50 a year from everybody to have these facilities run for everybody else. So that's kind of the deal, right? I pay thousands of dollars for somebody else's facilities. I get nothing from them. And I like these facilities. So that was my approach to it. She said it was badly the bill by which the money came to the city was badly formed. It wasn't appropriate. It was 1980s or Project 80s money. Anyway, it was a very eye-opening thing. And she knew exactly what she was talking about. Every single line item. She knew where the money was supposed to go. She knew what the money was being spent on here rather than the other things that it could be spent on. She was dead right. She was absolutely dead on right. This was a woman who was doing her homework. Not only did she have an ideology, which I appreciate. Ideology is your view of how the people relate to the government. Who do the rights come from? Who do the rights go to? Right? So she knew what she was talking about. And I appreciated that. And so even though we had it out. So Paul Bauer got really mad at me. What I am sick of, this is what I wanted to say. What I don't like about politics as it's currently structured is rich people, mostly who own companies or who work for unions or who are extreme left-wingers, want abortion on demand or want to change marriage, whatever it is. They fund their candidates left and right or left and middle. And conservatives sit around and complain. They have quote the Constitution all day long. They're talking about, well, this is the way it ought to work. And our founders wanted this kind of a government. And this is the way that when I was taught in school and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make any difference because you're not talking politically. You are not expending political capital. So anyway, Bauer got mad at me because I was supporting a candidate. And now I keep that off the air. I let everybody have their say and all that kind of stuff. And it's not a big part of the show, obviously, but we'll be talking a little bit about that, about coffee situation, Berkowitz, how much money is he going to raise? Sounds like he might dump some of his own huge hoards of cash in. I don't know where he got all of his money, maybe from parents. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show, 12 minutes after the hour. 15 minutes after the hour, the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN, Hot Talk, and News Valley Talk, KVNT Valley News Talk, 1020, 95.1 and 92.5 on the FM side. And if you can get the FM signal at all, it's a much better sounding signal. Listen to us online. You get digital quality there, and that's at 1020 kvnt.com and 1080koan.com. So good ways to listen to the program. I would love to hear from you on Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game, and also Free Flower Friday. I know you got thoughts on this, and I have told you before exactly what was going to happen. It's not like this is complicated. We knew they were going to wait till 3 weeks before. Now, by the way, I fault the media for this 100%. Do you think I'm going to ask you a very, very straightforward, simple question. Do you think that the media had, actually, they've had the file on coffee, published it, or at least excerpts now that we know, not a full transcript, on its website. So they've had this forever. They could have started this story ago. They could have started it 2 months ago. They could have started it last month. So I know what they're all about. They're trying to spring upon people at the very last minute, so coffee doesn't have a lot of opportunity to respond. I don't give them. Is this a real story? APOC investigated. No crimes committed. Is it a real story? Yeah, I think it is. And it's a real story mostly not because of the Teshi recording of it or that it was played on the air probably 30 or 40 times so long ago, the Aaron Selbig show. I think it's a story, and you tell me whether or not you think I'm right, Bonnie. Have you read the transcript? Or at least part of it?
I have. I couldn't help myself.
Okay. Well, no, this is relevant. This is not salacious. This is not something you should turn away from. This is this exposes who we're really dealing with. Now,
absolutely.
He could have been talking about the $250 that was adjudicated and no crimes were found. So I take it that those weren't true. There is something else in the transcripts, though, and that is language.
Foul language.
Yeah, foul language and referring to people in just a very dehumanizing way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, the story. That is, the $250 and the butt dial and the Allen is their money changing hands, which it turns out there wasn't. That's all the sort of the salaciousness, and that's going to fade away. But in my mind, and you tell me whether you think I'm right or wrong, in my mind, the part that doesn't fade away is this understanding that Dan Coffey doesn't speak when he's with friends or when he, when he doesn't think that anybody's listening. He doesn't speak in a way that most of us would feel comfortable
And
with.
what is the definition of good character? Doing the right thing when nobody's around?
Now, I felt bad for Starr because Starr never struck me as anybody who would use language like this. He doesn't think about other people in the way that Coffey is describing them and in the relationships and all kinds of stuff like that. So I thought Starr was really uncomfortable. I mean, as I read the transcripts, I guess maybe I'm reading into that. I wonder if he would come on. You think Bill Starr would come on and talk about this news, and he doesn't want to hear about it anymore?
I don't know if there's some, maybe he won't be allowed to. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything legal going on. And by the way, that's the test for you all out there who think that this is a real story. The real story now happens to be that is telling KOAN, if you have the recording, you're not allowed to play it or any part of it.
I mean, he's threatening to sue people. That's what I read on the KTVA website.
And that is a different matter because, here's a guy who wants to be mayor and, you can't go around to the media for something, first of all, something that's out there. And that's sort of part of the discussion. Now, I would have accepted if he said, you're not allowed to exit from this in order to give people the impression that I was serious or that any money ever changed hands having to do with this conversation. Because no money ever did. We adjudicated that. That is not true. So that is a knowing lie. That I would respect him for saying, but saying that you can't play even the whole transcript That the reason why, Bonnie, that I think that this is true, and I'd love to hear from you out there on Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday. My Lord's Floral, we're going to do a giveaway. Let's do it at 5 o'clock, by the way. All right, we're going to do My Lord's Floral giveaway at 5 o'clock. I would respect him for saying I've already gone through a legal process, and they have said that this take on this impression is not true, and you shouldn't be spreading things that are not true, and that is necessary. But here's the part that I worry about. If you play something in its entirety, yeah, it may not have been your best side. And you may be able to say, well, this is what was going on, and I'm going to explain it so that everybody can understand, what's going on here. But frankly, I think part of this thing that's true is the way that he addresses people, the language that he uses with Bill Starr, the feeling that you get from it. Those are the things that are true. The $250 and doing illegal activities, that wasn't true. Bill Starr wasn't involved in that. That's already done. That's my view, is why he doesn't want it played. Not because of the things that weren't true. And I would respect him if he said, if you give this impression that I was involved in illegal activity, I will sue you, because I've already gone through that, and that's not true. But the part that I think that he doesn't want people to get the sense of is how he was talking. You agree?
I do. I think it's pretty apparent that his mouth is not the cleanest. And, that does make a difference to me anyway.
Yeah. And I think it makes a big difference to people who are conservative.
Well, and I was surprised at some of my friends who are supporting Coffee for their support of him because of his language and his dirty mouth. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Well, and I don't even mind when people use foul language as much as how are they addressing their enemies? How are they discussing people who they disagree with?
Yes, he was talking down to people about people.
Well, it was a very unpleasant conversation, frankly, to be a party to. I don't know whether we're going to play it. I'm trying to find out. I'm actually trying to get Mike Robbins to come in and tell us where we are in the process, because the process, as I understand it, and again, I'd like your take on it, is this Coffee thing. Are you paying attention to it? Are you interested in it? Are you worried about it? What is it to you? 569-1080, 357-5868. So as I understand the process, nobody that we know of has the recording in its entirety. Aaron Selvig played it, and this was years and years and years and years ago. 2008. What is it, 2015 now? This is over 7 years ago that this recording was made. So we don't know whether we have it, but we were informed by Coffee that even if we do have it, and even though it's been played dozens of times on the air, even though he's published a transcript of it, we're not allowed to play it. Well, that obviously, how do you say this the right way? That obviously rubs people the wrong way who are in the media business, because the media business, if you've got something and nobody else has, and it's news and it's being covered and it's part of the discussion of the debate. And again, the illegal transactions and that kind of stuff, that's not part of the debate. That's not true. That is not true. But what is true does remain. What I think he doesn't want out are the transcripts where we're going to be as we go through the transcript. So that's my take on it. 569-1080, the Glen Biegel Show here, 25 minutes after the hour out in the Valley. 357-5868. Tom Anderson. You know what we know out Tom Anderson has on Monday? We'll be on with them. And this is my thought on this, by the way. They were talking about $250, and again, that's not true. It's not true that Bill Starr was involved in anything illegal. It's not true that Dan Coffey at that time was doling out $250 at a whack. None of those things are true. Those things were jokes, even if they're really bad jokes and they make them look really awful. But what is true is somebody in Ethan Berkowitz's organization, and he was at the Great Alaska Schools, or the giant Alaska school budgets, if you may. Oh, and I've decided what to call Common Core.
Ooh.
Communist Core.
Oh, yes, that's an old one, Glenn.
Not Communist Core, Communist.
Oh, that is a new one I haven't heard.
Okay, well, that's I hadn't heard that either. No, because it's not communism. It's communism. We have, we're all in the common. We're all going to learn exactly the same thing and all that kind of stuff. So it's communist core. That's what I'm going to do it as. And it comes from the teachers union, and it comes from the idea that everybody can be the same in some way. But and I don't find that to be true. I find that when we explore our individuality, that certain people are going to excel at math and other people are not going to excel at math. We can't have a common math curriculum. That certain people are going to excel at writing and other people are not going to excel at writing. We can't have a common writing curriculum. That certain people are going to excel at spelling. And I think most people can excel at spelling. But let me go to the phones here. 569-1080, 357-5868. And Karen, welcome.
I want to know where all the other opinionated people in the city are. How come I'm the only one that ever calls?
I don't know. That's a crazy thing. Karen, it is absolutely crazy. We talk about, I think, the most fascinating stuff that's on the news every single day. And we do it in a way that requires intellect and it requires a full investment of who you are as a person and what you believe. That's my job and that's what I do. And I really think a lot more people do have opinions on this stuff. They just don't feel comfortable calling, and they should.
Well, they should, because I think that a lot of all these topics that you're covering are relevant. Like the mayor's race is just, 2 weeks out? And I have something to say about this coffee thing. So my point is he now saying publicly he doesn't believe in the First Amendment? I mean, really, is he going to go that far and say, I don't believe in the First Amendment? How dare you report the facts?
Well, that's I'm trying to get clarity on exactly that, Karen, because I don't have a problem if he's out saying, if you are knowingly misrepresenting me, I have a problem with that. If you play the tape from end to end and you refer to the fact that APOC has already adjudicated this, then you can play the tape. I don't understand that. That's the part that I don't get, Karen.
Why don't you have him call you? Why isn't he calling in? Well, my point is we have the freedom of the press. We have the transcripts. The facts speak for themselves. I'm voting for Amy Dembowski. I vote pro-life. I'm voting for Amy.
It makes it a lot simpler, doesn't it, Karen?
Yes, it sure does.
All right. I appreciate it.
Keep up the good work. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks very much. 569-1080, 357-5868, 28 minutes after the hour. 27 minutes before the hour. It's Fair Game Friday, Free Flower Friday here on the Glen Biegel Show. At 5 o'clock, actually, we're going to be giving away, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com, our sponsor here for Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday. She is going to be giving away a beautiful $50 bouquet inside of stainless steel travel mug. And again, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com, 522-2535. That is their number. If you have never been there, just wander through corner 76th and the Old Seward Highway. It is, well, it's like a dream. You know, it's like walking into Willy Wonka's, what did he call his place? Oh, the Chocolate Factory, yeah. But Wonderland or something like that. I don't remember. No, that was Alice in Wonderland. Anyway, it's amazing. It's wonderful. 522-2535, corner 76th in the Old Seward Highway. Our sponsor for this hour of the program is A&A The Shop. If you've got a Subaru, I got just the place to take it. 6 out of the last 12 years, the best shop in Anchorage by Press Picks. What a fantastic place. And one of the reasons they have that, one of the reasons the best shop in Anchorage, 36-month, 36,000-mile warranty, both parts and labor. A lot of places will do parts, but they won't do labor. And so that makes a huge difference. We're going to be on with Senator Kevin Meyer here in just a moment, but I wanted to take Todd before I got to the good senator. Todd, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi.
Hey, I can understand why Coffee would not want that be replayed,
yes,
unless there was some kind of disclaimer about, look, this was investigated. There's nothing here, because I could see how the media would turn that into a circus.
Well, Berkowitz is planning on it, and so is Halcrow.
Yeah, but by doing what he did and the way he did it, he turned it into a circus himself.
That's what I think, too. I was really surprised. And I haven't read the letter to Robbins or anything else like that. So I don't know. All I know is that Coffee said, if you play the tape, I will sue you. You are not allowed to play the tape, which seems to me to be in public domain.
Yeah, and maybe the actual language is something a little bit...
maybe something a little bit
better,
different that sort of clarifies.
If you play it, you need to make sure that you also note that it was investigated,
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
But I'm a lot more interested in what how the establishment Republicans respond to this.
How do you expect them to? Or do you expect them to?
I would expect them to put ideals over...
They don't have any ideals. I mean, that's what it means to be in the establishment. The establishment means that you give up, a good portion of what you believe so that, you are whatever, you're supported.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear from Mayor Dan Sullivan, for example, who is the only reason why he endorsed Dan Coffey, because he didn't like the fact that Amy challenged him on the tennis court. Does he think that Dan Coffey has the ethics and the morals to be a better leader? I mean,
give us some clear direction there. Well, those are great questions. I don't expect them to answer, by the way.
And also quickly to Karen. Karen, if I called more often, you'd have to put me in the studio. So I'm not.
You're doing your part, Todd. Thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. Glen Biegel Show here on, and it's 24 minutes before the hour. On with us, Senator Kevin Meyer, in the midst of, I would guess, what is one of the most difficult times in Alaska's fairly brief history, down in Juneau. Senator Meyer, thanks so much for being on with me. Happy Friday.
Glenn, yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, we're down to our last third of our 90-day session, so it's getting interesting, getting pretty hectic, but we're making good progress.
Okay, and now I'm interested to know what good progress looks like, and also if the governor, if you guys have what, probably a couple hundred people who work for the legislature, all told, both sides of the aisle, including all your staff and everything else. He can appoint 1,900 people, and the pay for his people are much better. They're actually tasked with trying to figure out how to run these huge organizations. Long question. My point in it is this: without having his help, you guys are severely handicapped in how much cutting can be done before core services are cut.
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's kind of the one thing that we have over the governor is that we can make reductions, and he can't veto reduction.
Right. But how do you know when a core service is going to be cut, or what you guys would consider a core service?
Well, that's why we try to dig into it as much as we can and ask a lot of questions. Senator Kelly from Fairbanks has, I think, done an excellent job with the HES department, which is one of our largest departments or agencies.
Billions of dollars every year go through there.
Yeah, but he hired Commissioner Bill Sturr, who was commissioner under
Parnell.
Under Parnell for 6 years, and so he knows where all the money's hidden, and so it works for us, and so that's been very helpful.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's true. I know that a lot of people are trying to help figure this out, because it's the price of failure here, which a lot of people probably haven't added up. If we only cut, and I think the House said, I had Speaker Chenault, he said $227 million was their target for the operating budget. But even if we zeroed out the capital budget, which it looks like we've done, even only cutting $227 million a year for the next 4 years, we still have $2.5 billion in deficit or so.
Yeah, we're not done yet, Glenn.
Okay.
That was the House, and now the House has sent it over to the Senate, and we're planning on taking the House numbers and going even further. So all said and done, including the capital budget, our goal is to have about a $700 million reduction, which, granted, is still a ways off from $3.5 billion, but it gets us 20% closer anyway. So so no, we're definitely not done with the operating or capital budget yet.
All right. Well, that truly is good news. I think what Chenault said was he thought the $700 million included $450 million in cuts in the capital budget, and then like $250 million in cuts in the operating budget. But what you're saying, and Senator Kevin Meyer is on here with me, what you're saying is you guys are looking for $700 million in cuts in operating expenses.
Well, no, I would say that $700 million is the minimum with operating and capital,
Okay.
but we plan on going more than the $700 million.
Okay, well, good. There we're talking about real money, because we can't. I don't know the way I look at it, and I'm interested in the way you look at it too. Here, Senator Kevin Meyer on the Glen Biegel show here. If we don't reduce the budget fairly dramatically, an extra $1.5 billion, $2 billion, that's going to mean fairly high taxes. Around $10,000-$12,000 per family.
Yeah, that's correct. We still have money in our reserves that can last us 2 or 3 years, but we have to continue to reduce not only this year but next year as well, and continue until we can get either oil prices back up and or get a more positive sign on the gas pipeline. But there's a couple of things that are concerning us. We're kind of at odds with the governor on the gas pipeline, and the governor's really pushing hard on Medicaid expansion, and we're trying to push back on that because obviously, even at 10% match, which is what's going to occur if we do decide to expand, that's several millions of dollars that we just don't have.
And right now, it's a 50% match, right? So, I mean, we can expect it to probably return back to something around that level over time.
Yeah, I think if we agree to the Medicaid expansion, the feds will match it at 100% for the next couple of years, and then they ratchet it down to 90%.
Right. That's as far as they've gotten out in their 10-year plan. Senator Kevin Meyer on here. Somebody told me that about the 42,000 that's always quoted by the media, that includes over 10,000 people who are military members or ex-military members. They're already covered by the VA. That includes over 10,000 who are already covered by the Indian Health Services. And what it leaves is around 15,000, between 12 and 17,000. They said half of those, say 15,000 people, are covered by private health insurance now, who would be put on public health insurance after this change goes through. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's a more accurate number. Depending on what side of the issue you're on, you'll use a higher or lower number. But no, I think your numbers are more accurate, Glenn, and that's what we're saying. The Republican majority is that let's find out what the actual number is, and let's reform the existing Medicaid before we expand it, because we know that the current Medicaid system has got a lot of flaws. Not only the computer system, but just people who could be going to Alaska Native hospitals who are going, say, to Providence, people who make appointments and then don't show up, and we still have to pay for it. So there's just a lot of issues that need to be fixed before we even talk about expansion, in our opinion.
I'm really glad you bring these things up, because when they're glossed over and they're left out of the discussion, everybody just thinks, oh yeah, it won't hurt anybody, it doesn't harm anybody, we'll just expand Medicaid, we'll get more money from the federal government. But when you talk about the lower numbers and you talk about the flaws in the system that are already there, well, that gives me an indication that maybe we're not talking about the same thing. So yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up. I do want to talk gas line with you. I know that is that's a very big issue. We've already sort of covered the budget, and you say you have about a third of the way to go. Common Core is another big thing that was covered in the paper today, and that the new testing standards, the Common Core testing standards, are sort of rolling out here in the state of Alaska. So you tell me, where do you want to go?
Well, I think I'd rather go with the pipeline. I don't read the paper too much anymore, Glenn.
Okay.
I probably should. So
I'm sure you guys get your news. There are lots of sources. You could just tune into this program, and then you could get all the information you need.
I'd rather listen to your program than read the newspaper.
Well, that's for sure. It is, and a lot of times it is so demoralizing, because they cover things from such a different point of view, a different world view than the rest of us actually live every day as we raise our families. Senator Kevin Meyer on the break with me.
Oh.
All right, appreciate that. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show, KOAN. KVNT. My good friends over at Payless Car Sales are there to make sure that the next car that you get is better than any car that you've had in your entire life. A better deal, a better car. 677 Auto, Payless Car Sales. Ali and his folks over there, Russell, JC, Oscar, the whole crew, the whole sales crew, and his auto shop. It's a previously owned car place with its own auto shop. That means that they can back up, they can give much better warranties, and they know what they're talking about. When they put a car on their lot, they know it's top notch. 677 Auto, 919 East 5th Avenue, and online at paylesssales.com. Oh, if you haven't heard, every single car at or below NADA, and they'll file your taxes for you free of charge. How about that? 677 Auto, Payless Car Sales. We're going to be back with Senator Kevin Meyer, and they're in the midst of, I'd say, the most important discussions that we've ever had. I'm very interested to hear when we come back whether or not the senator has any indication that prices will escalate back above $80, because that would kind of change things. If it goes between where it is now, $47 and $70, it's probably not going to make a lot of difference for the state of Alaska in our tax structure and how short we're going to be. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show, 14 minutes before the hour. 11 minutes before the hour of the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT in the midst of a potential lawsuit with the coffee campaign over a recording that came, I think, 7 years ago of a phone conversation that was being had. We'll have to sort of walk through this over the next week, and something might break on it today. So make sure to stay tuned to the program here. 569-1080 and 357-5868. On the phone with me is Senator Kevin Meyer. Senator Meyer, I'm sure you're aware of what happened with Representative Reinbold.
Yes, yes.
I don't think anybody did anything they shouldn't have done. If she was morally, if she found the budget that they passed morally objectionable, she had the duty, according to her conscience, to say, I don't want to be a part of the majority caucus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And the majority caucus said, well, our rules are whatever the budget is, you have to vote for it. Those are our rules. And if you don't want to be a part of our group, then you are out of the caucus and you lose your staff and committee appointments.
Yeah, and that rule is not unique to the Republican Party. The Democrats, when they were in charge, they had the same rule. And the reason why you have that rule is that the only thing we have to do as a legislature, as we talked about earlier, is pass a budget. And nobody likes the budget that comes forward, or you don't like it completely. You think there's either too much spending, or maybe the project you want is not in there and you want to vote against it for that reason. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to pass the budget, and so
it goes through a committee process. You have lots of opportunity to interact with the budget, but on the floor, and this is the thinking of the majority caucus, that there's just too much trouble by the Democrats to be stirred into the pot if you don't have the votes to pass the budget.
Exactly. Yeah, we all serve on various subcommittees that hear different agencies, and we have an opportunity then to make our subtractions or additions, and then it goes up to the finance committee, where again, even if you're not on finance, you can work with the various finance members and have them make again additions or deletions, and then finally it goes to the floor. So yeah, you have a lot of opportunities to get your input. But like I said, nobody is totally 100%
All right. Well, here's my question, because this is what conservatives around me and myself will be working on for our candidates for next time.
Okay.
I don't like the rule, given the fact that you don't know how liberal the caucus is going to be, and how much the Greater Alaska Schools pressure is going to try and force people to vote for a budget that's larger than what they want. So here's what I'm looking for. I'm speaking with Senator Kevin Meyer. I would like for candidates to sign a pledge that says, I will not vote for a budget that's cuts less than $400 million maybe for next year. I don't know what the number is going to be. Do you agree with that? And I'm not saying whatever number. Maybe it's 100 million, maybe it's 50 million, maybe it's just balanced budget, level budget to this year. Maybe it's 700 million. I don't know what it is. Tell me about the idea, though. Do you find a problem with that?
No, not at all. Again, I think, yeah, you'd want to change it, based on where the budget was the year before. If we do our job correctly this year and cut enough, you won't have to, ask candidates to pledge to cut a whole bunch more in the future. But you also have to have an escape clause in the sense that what if we do have an emergency, or what if something comes up that you just got to fund?
That's fair, and I'll make sure to build one of those in there. I guess my difficulty is, given the fact that we have a very broad coalition of people who are in the Republican caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a number of Democrats. There's a number of very, very liberal Republicans who are not tied to the pipeline or oil prices or just about anything else. There has to be some guidance from conservatives that the nature of our caucus is to find the limited number of things that we want government to do, and we want them to do those well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm very glad you said that, because these are not easy times, and like you said, this has never really happened before. To have to cut this much, to be so far away, really 50% of our budget is we don't have. It's not coming in income.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Great to hear you. Do you want me to take? Okay. So tell me about the gas line. The governor, you guys passed a law which said there's a 500 MCF, half a billion cubic feet a day gas line would be used for in-state purposes. He wants to go with a potentially much bigger line. And so this is the alternative to the large diameter line that Exxon was working on. But the problem is that he said only one of these lines is going to go forward. So Exxon says, well, how can we as a private sector compete with you as the public sector who makes the decision as to which line that you will favor?
Yeah, and we're trying to get the governor to come out and clear up some of this confusion, because we voted a couple of years ago under Governor Parnell, SB 138, which basically says we're going to partner with the three major oil companies that have the gas, and TransCanada, who has the capability to build the pipeline, and the state's going to own up to 25% in this pipeline. That's going to cost $65 billion. Now, we all know that number's going to go up as once you get started. Now, our concern is that the Governor Walker, who's been involved with the Port Authority, for the last 20 years or so, him and his chief of staff, Whitaker, and now he's Attorney General, and his law partner, Richard, is coming out with op-ed pieces and even verbally saying, well, we really think it's in the state's best interest to have a majority ownership, if not 100%, at least 51%. And so that's got the oil companies kind of concerned. It's got us concerned for a couple of reasons. One is that we can't afford 51%, and number two, we don't have any gas. The gas we've given up, except for our royalty share, we've given up in our lease sales to the oil companies. So so the oil companies are going, well, we don't know if we want to share any more information because
you might have us spend all the money, and then you'll just take all of the information that we were partners with before, but now you're our regulator, and you might actually be our competitor.
Exactly, and Walker's saying, well, I don't want my members to sign a confidentiality statement. So,
well, no business gets done unless it's in confidential circumstances. We're finding that out here in the mayoral race in Anchorage quite clearly.
Exactly, especially when you're talking $65 billion, you're going to want to have some confidentiality. And now that the governor's Plan B could be Plan A, and it's almost competing with Plan A, they're concerned, and that bothers us as the legislature, because the oil companies have interests all around the state, and their capital is constrained now under these oil prices, and we don't want to scare them off. This is as close as we've ever been to a gas pipeline. So all Speaker Chenault is doing in his bill that he's introduced, and it's moving pretty quickly, is saying, look, let's stay the course until we get to what's called the feed stage, which is about a year from now. And then if the oil companies don't commit to the feed stage and to committing big bucks, then we'll go to Plan B.
Okay. All right. So that's sort of what you guys are looking for as to the path forward. I think all those concerns are very legitimate. The oil companies' concerns here. I am very interested from the governor to hear what his real plan is as to who's going to fund this line. Is it the Wall Street? Is it is it contracts, 30, 40-year contracts with the purchasers of the gas where they get the majority of the benefit? Somebody's got to get a benefit. Somebody's got to risk something too. Is he putting our permanent fund on the line? Senator Kevin Meyer from Juneau, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me, Glenn.
All right, folks, 2 minutes before the hour. This is the Glen Biegel Show. Stay tuned. 5 minutes after the hour, the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN Hot Talk and KVNT Valley News Talk. I would love to hear from you. Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday. First, I said it was going to happen at 4:45. Then I said it was going to happen at 5, and it still hasn't happened. But the Free Flower Friday giveaway from My Lord's Floral is going to happen in 15 minutes. Well, actually, what it'll be 10 minutes from now at 5:15. So make sure to put it down. 569-1080. That's the number, 569-1080. And we'll probably take caller number 2, something like that. Seems like a caller number 2 kind of day at the break. If you have a question for Representative Reinbold, please queue up 569-1080, 357-5868. If you just want to thank her for doing what she thought was right and what you probably think is right too, then I would. She needs to hear that. You have to realize that in many ways, the struggle that she's going through is a struggle of the spirit, because she's on the side of right. Most people recognize that. Most people recognize that we don't need the government to be this big, and that we will be a much better off state if it's not this big. Our sponsor for this hour of the program, Dr. Dan Kiley, 562-9209, gets you over to somebody who has just a wonderful dentistry. He is the best in class, a caring touch, and there's not a lot that he can't do. If you've waited 5 or 10 or 15 or, oh, help us, 20 years, it is time for you to start getting your life back through dentistry. 562-9209, online at lakeotisdental.com. And when you go in there, make sure you let them know you want a conservative dentist. Let me go to the phones here and talk with Representative Laura Reinbold. Thanks so much first of all, for everything that you've done, and thanks for being on the program.
Absolutely. I was sent to Juneau to make tough decisions, and I'm making them.
Well, you, whether you like it or not, are now sort of the poster child. You are the person who I would take it that the establishment who doesn't like their rules looked into. They probably are going to strike back at you, and you will depend on a lot of people, average, regular, everyday people who care about an open, a clean process, a non-threatening process to back you up.
Absolutely. But to me, knowledge is power. The people don't understand what's going on. So that is my commitment, to empower the people. I'm trying to post every day or every few days on something big going on in Juneau so that they can have knowledge, so they can act. And I would like to go over about 7 things that are wrong with Juneau right now. I don't know if you want to give me the liberty to talk that long.
Well, let's start going through them.
I
want to set the stage. One thing which occurs to me is, now that you're out of the majority caucus, the options for you actually become much greater. I mean, yes, they've taken all your staff away. They've taken all your appointments away, and most of the power that you could wield through the regular process is all gone. But a totally different avenue for you to speak and for you to enact and get people involved, that has opened up.
It is amazing. Even today on the House floor, I introduced a constitutional budget amendment to the Constitution that limits the amount we can draw every single year from the Constitutional Budget Reserve, 10%. I want that to go before the people. The people need to help make these decisions, because it's their future we're messing with. They're going to bear the cost of big government if we don't get ourselves under control. That's why I put forth this constitutional amendment.
Well, and the great thing is, these are all good ideas, and they need to be out in public. We need to discuss them and try and work through them. So you wanted to cover 7 things. Let's start with 1, and then we'll see how many we get to.
Okay, first of all, our ledge finance, very, very liberal, okay? They're spinning people like Mark Newman up to say ridiculous things like we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. So these are the kind of things that they're lacing. This is the beat in the building.
So Newman actually said we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem.
Well,
or not a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Which one was it?
The backwards they're saying it. Some are saying that in ledge finance, and the backwards way that they're saying is you can't cut yourself to prosperity.
Now that I find really, really offensive, because you can tax me into A, subservience, and B, you can tax me out of the state of Alaska. So you literally can cut your way to my prosperity, because I don't need government at all. I don't want government at all.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one thing. That's spin, and he has said that many times.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
so
the way
that's
we
one
should
thing.
hear that. When you hear we can't cut our way to prosperity, what he's saying in reality is when we don't cut our way into sanity, we are going to tax you away from prosperity.
Yeah, right. And so to continue with ledge finance, and I do find some good things over in ledge finance. I'm not here to beat them all up, but they are producing charts in the budget that are ridiculous. They're showing lines that government has not grown since 1975, basically, because they played a whole bunch of tricks with these charts, and they pulled the designated general funds out and just put UGF in there, which I don't want to get into all the details.
So it's not the whole
charts
budget.
Are faulty. I said, Mark, this chart is BS. I'll be back in 1 hour to tell you why. And I went back and I showed him. I got a Commonwealth chart that absolutely showed completely the different picture because the UGF. Anyway, I'm saying false charts that don't really represent the truth.
Well, are you going to publish the real ones? Are you going to help us with
They're
that?
already published. They're
Okay.
on Commonwealth North. Just print the report out. Those are the accurate ones.
Hey, can I take a call from you? I think this person wants to thank you.
Sure.
All right. Greg, welcome to the program. Thanks for calling. You're on with Representative Laura Reinbold.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Glenn. Hey, Laura, I speak for a lot more than just myself, people out there that are fiscal hawks, Tea Party folks, those type that support your action there, regardless of whether Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution or Article 2, Section 12 of the Constitution was followed. Regardless of that, and I actually think it was, we need a change. We're tired of business as usual in Juneau, and many people beyond me support your action.
Well, thank you very much. Those are warm things to my heart because I keep saying Juneau and the atmosphere in Juneau is very chilly. It's below zero for me down there, but I don't care because it's the warm-hearted people that are calling me and encouraging me. Democrats, Libertarian, Conservatives, Tea Party, Republicans, everybody is calling my office. My phone is ringing off. My mailbox is constantly full. And you guys are the people that are motivating me. It's about the people.
Representative Reinbold, can you stay on with me? Mike Dingman's going to be on with us from Alaska Dispatch News.
We'd love to.
All right. That'd be great. Be right back. Stay tuned. This is the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN and KVNT. I wondered what your smirk was all about before I put on my headphones, and there was Lady Gaga once again. Speaking of Lady Gaga, Mike Dingman is in studio with us. Mike, turn on his microphone there, by the way.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Do your friends, or speaking of real problems? Oh, Glenn, how are you? Whatever the conversation was they were having before.
I get that. Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, the hammer comes down. People find out what they really think about. You got a couple of hot articles in Alaska Dispatch News. I got Representative Laura Reinbold on the phone. I thought you and I could have a discussion with her.
Absolutely.
About where things are, and I think that will be very revealing. You're listening to the way 16 minutes after the hour. It's Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday, and you can call in right now if you want free flowers from My Lord's Floral. Now is the time to call 562. No, not 562. I was going to give one of my other. That would have been confusing for them. I think that might have been a 376
357 5868 or 1080.
There you go. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. 569 1080 357 5868. Give us a call right now. Caller number 2 for the My Lord's Floral $50 bouquet inside of a stainless steel travel mug, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com. 569 1080 and 357 5868. All right. Representative Reinbold is on the phone here. Mike Dingman in studio with us. Representative Reinbold, you all right?
I absolutely am. Hey, Mike, thanks for writing that nice article, especially the first half. Very good. Thank you.
Representative Reinbold, thanhanks for all the stuff you're doing down there. I know you're working really hard, so I appreciate it.
All right. Now, what was the reference to the first half? Now,
go ahead. I wrote a column about the punishments Representative Reinbold got for voting your conscience, and how these punishments shouldn't happen for representative votes. A vote should be so to represent their district, not one speaker from Nikiski who thinks he should run the whole show.
And Representative Reinbold, do you agree with that?
Well, this is now that I'm on the outside of the clip.
Okay? Speak with complete candor.
I see things from a different view.
Yeah.
And this is now that when I joined the caucus, we did principles, and I've gone over those principles to save for future generations, to live within our means, to develop a long-range plan, and to establish priorities and core government functions. I believe in those principles. My vote, I voted for those principles. I wasn't voting, because of a silly rule. But now the rule to me, this is what the rule sounds like to me. I will allow you to get on chairmanship, maybe have a nice office, but you, without any limitations or restrictions, have to give us access, us leaders, the leadership, the co-chair of the finance rules, and the speaker, and the majority leader, unlimited access to all revenues, all without on it. And I pleaded with them when I went into caucus this session. I said, guys, I'm warning you right now. I need a limit. I need a range. I need a percentage that we're taking out of our constitutional budget reserve. I never was given direction, never given an answer. It was not discussed.
I think this is the most important aspect of this, and I'm going to be speaking with various conservatives, and we're going to be working on to see people take across the entire state, all 40 districts, and ask their representatives whether or not they will sign a statement which says, I will not accept the budget that cuts less than, put in a number, 50 million, 100 million, 400 million, as a result of not cutting them this much in tax. If I fail in this duty, this is the result that will happen to the state of Alaska. And I, as your representative, am not going to let that happen. Kevin Meyer even said, Senator Meyer was on. You heard him on the phone. I asked him that. What did you think of what he had to say?
Well, I think that we have to get it in writing. I think the problem with the Republican Party right now is they can evolve. They can be chameleons. They can make excuses for doing things. They, just like you said, Great Alaska Schools put pressure. The Senate caved, but hundreds of millions of dollars more as our student population was going down, especially in the public schools. More were homeschooling because of Common Core, etc. But I can tell you, we've got to be more of a pure party if we're going to be a party at all. I believe that it's wrong now, and I don't believe I'll ever join a caucus unless there is a rule like that. I have to have my freedom to vote. I understand that we need to get a budget through. I got it. But we have to agree at the beginning, one, we're headed for, knowing that we know the revenues, and two, how much we're going to take out of the constitutional budget reserve. That's why I dropped the resolution today, saying in good time, in times like this, that we should not be spending more than 10% of our constitutional budget reserve. What is nothing possibly should be in the resolution, then in really good times, we should be putting away 10%. That will be a very, very good constitutional amendment that people of Alaska need to vote on.
I think people would be interested, but let's get back to having a sub-caucus which has signed a series of pledges which says these are the limitations. Mike Dingman, is there a possibility to get 6 to 8 representatives to sign on the dotted line, say, I vote for a budget that cuts less than $400 million?
I think you're going to need to organize that pretty carefully. And, the problem is that the ones that would sign on to are going to be scared that they're, the rest won't come along, or so that they'll just be on the outside looking in. Like Cherie Smollett and Kyle Johansson were after they left the caucus a couple of legislatures ago.
She doesn't want, by the way, this situation, Laura Reinbold's situation, compared, and Laura doesn't want it compared.
No, it's completely different because they left.
This was on principle.
Yes,
Laura objected to this. Said, "Look, on my conscience, I rise in objection to this budget," or whatever words she used to that effect. I don't want to be a part of this caucus. This does not represent my values, and it doesn't represent the values of my district.
Yeah.
So to me, Laura Reinbold did just what she had to do. Now,
she did what her obligation is to do. She voted her conscience. She voted for her constituents. She did what she's supposed to do. Yeah.
Now, Laura, the punishments, your staff has all been taken away.
Except for one, and she's amazing.
All right. Now, they give you staff, most of these committees, so that you have experts to help with legislation in those committees. Is that?
Oh, they answer constituent calls. They go to meetings. There's dozens of meetings going on in the Capitol. You got to pick where you're going to go. And a lot of times staff gets to sit in on finance subcommittees. They write letters. They read legislation. They do PR for you. I mean, they work so hard.
How does it differ between majority and minority caucus staff they get, and how is that negotiation handled?
Well, I can tell you that I get 3 staffers, and most minority members get 2. So that's kind of average. They give you a number of points, and you can choose how to distribute those points. Okay.
And are the points based on whether or not you're a chairman of, say, finance, which is it has its own staff, or what?
For those higher, those committees that could cause extra work, the co-chairs do get extra staff.
Okay.
But normally, just the members do not.
But you don't have an equality of staff. Every person in the legislature doesn't automatically get 4 staff.
Mine was only 3, but I had a part-timer 10 hours, so I lowered one of my Juneau staffers because they didn't have to pay all the expenses to be down in Juneau, in order to have someone going to my constituent meetings in Eagle River, because my anchor is in Eagle River. It is not in Juneau.
So, Mike, is it fair that different legislators have different amount of staff?
It's when I've been down there and covering it, different legislators have different obligations, and like she said, finance always has its own staff, and some of those higher the speaker has separate staff for different things that the speaker has to do, and they're busier. It probably isn't, and it's probably a byproduct of, hey, we're in power, and so we set the rules, and so the people in power are getting more staff, and the people in the minority are getting less staff, and it's probably unfair. And I think that who's ever in power at the time thinks it's fair, and who's ever does
been
this
in
time
power
when the
before, and
Yeah.
my understanding is that you don't mess with the minority staff. Comes around, they don't mess around with your staff, and
exactly, yeah.
it's
And
sort
that's
of
why
everybody
that's why
understands
like
what the rules
Representative
are.
Reinbold said, she had 3 staff and a lot of the minority have 2. It's not a huge disparity,
All right.
but,
But now
it's
you
a
have
difference.
one. So explain why you have one. Explain to me the punishment. Do you regret your vote on the budget, by the way?
Absolutely not. It has been the most liberating, most empowering thing that I've done in the legislature. I have a lot of that. Even like today, when they tried to sneak that law of the sea stuff back in another resolution, and I was able to call a timeout, and boy, 6 people went around the Democrat, and it was just very, very, even though this Democrat is part of the House majority, we were able to push the vote into Monday, and I've asked them to strip out a section of it. So I feel more empowered than I've ever felt down in Juneau.
Well, I believe, and Mike, you tell me whether I'm wrong. She has more power. I mean, an average individual legislator who's not a leader, who's not speaker, who can't basically stop any bill that they want. Every other person, all other 24 or whatever, they don't much matter. But Laura Reinbold has a great opportunity here to do so.
Well, now there's 3 caucuses on there, right? There's already and the Reinbold caucus won. And if you look at it from a media standpoint, then anything Representative Reinbold does becomes a story, kind
Shines
of,
a spotlight.
because it's not
new, it's
necessarily
different.
historic, but it's different. It's a little bit somewhat unprecedented, and it's news now. So yeah, she has a louder voice.
Well, Representative Reinbold, I'm looking forward to work through exactly how we want this caucus and the agreements that we would like to see. We conservatives would like to see our legislators, because there are a lot of people who claim to be conservatives as legislators, but they've all been locked into this caucus rule too. And I think a lot of them would like out, frankly, and I'm hoping that we get a lot of people to sign on to this pledge that I will not vote for a budget that cuts less than, you name the number, $400 million.
Right. Well, let me tell you a couple things, and I don't like to play the opponent of this, but I'll tell you what they'll tell us. Okay, they will say, if you do that, you're going to get an ethics violation, because if you've ever received money or anything from that group, then it's a quid pro quo. So you can't do that. So they're going to tell you that. So that's why I think it's much better.
Representative Reinbold, here's the problem: is that they are a part of the Republican majority, and they're telling what you can and can't vote on. Right? They're saying that you have to vote for a budget. We're just asking you guys to pledge to the rest of your caucus, I'm not going to vote for a budget that's greater than this. It comes from you. It doesn't come from us.
Right. And I will tell you, I will not join a caucus again if the rule is you can have unlimited access. There has to be a number. There has to be a range.
I thank you for that. And that is going to be a very important discussion. Thanks so much, Representative Reinbold. Mike Dingman on KOAN, KVNT, The Glen Biegel Show, 28 minutes after the hour. "27 minutes before the hour of the Glen Biegel Show. Happy Friday, everyone." And it's an accomplishment. We made it all the way through. Everything they could throw at us, whatever it was, we got through it. Now we can go back to Angry Birds, too, which is one of the greatest things for me. I get addicted to, make sure his microphone's on there, Bunny. I get Mike Dingman in studio here with me. I get addicted to the Iditarod.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come straight out and say it. I will update my screen and refresh it and look at it probably 1,000 times a day, watching all those little mushers go up and down those trails. It amazes me.
You know, one real job at Highland Mountain Correctional Center is for Iditarod dogs. And so there'll be times we'll have 60 to 100 Iditarod dogs out in our back area.
I remember reading a story about that, right? About the ladies there taking care of them.
Yeah, every year they come out, the news, you know, all the different stations come out and do a story, and the prisoners do all the, they take care of, you know, we go out there and supervise, but they do all the work. They, you know, read the chips with a little chipper and feed them, and the vet comes out and checks on them, and these dogs get a lot of love with it there. But it's kind of, it's really cool. It's a way to be part of the idea in a very direct way. So it's kind of neat.
Well, I bet it is very healing for people who have not had the best of lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I give you a couple of headlines here before we get back into the mix? The head of the panel, Gowdy, down in Trey Gowdy, I think is his name, and he's a representative. He said, relinquish your personal email server or else. Do they ever see that server?
I don't think so.
You don't think they're going to?
Do you think the
She's going to the mat for this?
Do you think the Republicans have the? Do you think it's possible the Republicans might overplay their hand on this?
No.
On this one issue, or do you think this is
no? People want to see what's on that server.
I agree. Yeah, and you know, I'm not sure.
Well, they don't like Hillary. That's the thing. If it was Bill, I think they could overplay their hand. You know, as long as he had his hands where you could see him.
Bill's much more likable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do think, but not against Hillary. Hillary, you get a bad sense. Plus, she's already got Benghazi sort of weighing on her, and that she kind of hid. Now, I expect them to turn over the server and say, "What do you mean it's all gone?" Oh, yeah. I wonder if there was a magnetic.
She deleted 30,000 emails. You hear Jon Stewart's response to that? He said, "You know, they said she used her own email because hardship to have multiple devices. And then he said, you know what? It's even bigger of a hardship is deleting 30,000 emails.
Well, the funny thing
So-
is, this is what Laura Ingraham, who's on the station a little earlier, and yes, I know that I'm mispronouncing her name. Is that okay with you, Bonnie? Does that upset you?
A little bit.
Okay. Laura Ingraham. Okay, there you go. I'm just going to keep saying it. There you get a bad
Finally Friday.
reaction. Anyway, she was talking about it, and she said 1 week, maybe 2 weeks before this, Hillary was congratulating us off different devices.
Yeah.
An iPad, I mean, she had all these different, so a BlackBerry, an iPhone, an iPad, and I can't remember the fourth one was. But anyway, so obviously didn't have anything to do with that. That was just a complete fabrication. Media didn't call her on it, though.
And anybody that has a smartphone knows that you can have as many email accounts on your smartphone as you want. It's not a...
I love that story.
I have 3 on mine right now, so...
Mike Dingman in studio with us, working with Alaska Dispatch News. The next one that I saw, a Tennessee company and its officials charged with bribes in Alaska. This has to do with J-Bear. So some people on the base sort of saying, yeah, this is deprecated or not well installed. We need this other company to reinstall it so that it's better. This sounds like it goes on quite a bit here. I mean, there were issues. There have been issues about this kind of thing. People invalidly contracting quite a bit. It worries me, that Alaska's
anytime you
kind of far
got
away.
high dollar, government contracts and a murky process for how those get awarded, it's
A lot of opportunity.
there's
for
a lot
people.
of ghosts in the machinery there.
State sells $4 billion in stocks because it may need the cash. Real quick piece.
I was talking to a guy I know that is real smart when it comes to this stocks and stuff, and he was looking at his computer and he said yes, and I said, what happened? And he told me the story, and he said, I think this is a really good thing because the market's going to correct itself. And now I don't know anything about markets or money, or I know that every now and then I get money deposited in my bank account, which makes me happy.
You gotta like that. That part of it.
It's but
I must tell you, I've lost faith in the stock market. I don't think it'll go down. I don't think it'll go down to any significant extent, unless Goldman Sachs sells the market and then they'll buy low again. They can print as much money as they want. So since it's not real, and plus the other thing that I've noticed is because Europe is doing so poorly and China has stopped growing so fast, in relative terms, the United States of America, even though we're sliding down the hill, we're not sliding as fast as everybody else. So you might as well just invest here. That's kind of the way that I see it.
So do you think there's no big correction coming? Do you think we're right about where we should be? Or?
They keep saying, we're going to have 20% correction. It goes down 8 to 10%, and then comes right back up. It goes down 8 to 10%, comes right back up. So I really don't think so. I think that the Fed has already said, look, we are going to erase any downside here. We're not going to allow the stock market to go down. We've fooled around with this thing before. They've got a model, and people will let us print as much money as we want. They don't seem to care.
Yeah, it seems that way now, and it's been the last probably 10, 15 years that's kind of been the case.
Zero interest rates for how long now? I mean, whoever heard of that? Zero interest rates. I mean, and there's no inflation. That's the other thing. So I don't know. I don't see it. I think at some point China will say, no, United States, stop printing $1 trillion. I don't know who else is going to do it. So
remember all that money you owe us. Let's have a discussion.
All right. Okay. Laura Reinbold, bonehead play, just what she should have done. Give it to me from her point of view. What happened to her? And then I'll go from the majority's point of view, and we'll talk about that. First, from her point of view.
I think, if I was sitting in her chair, I think it's a smart thing to do because she's a low seniority House representative.
Who the majority doesn't like. I will let you know that.
Majority doesn't like because she's a woman of her word, and she's she stands on principle, and a lot of those guys don't like that because they like to sway with their populist.
Yeah,
they like the populist line.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't know what buttons to push,
exactly,
so that the other person will do what you want. If they don't have any buttons like that,
they're
like, well, I don't know if I can work with you because we have to give and take here. That's the way things work.
And they don't like it. Laura Reinbold over here on the right side, or somebody like Jay Ramrus, who kind of, or
Paul Seaton.
Paul Seaton's another one. Yeah, the Gary Stevens and
Bert Stedman.
Bert Stedman, yeah. So they like those outliers because it threatens their empire.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to represent sort of a majority view of the caucus, and then trying to make that look real solid. But oftentimes it isn't real solid. So I'm sure, my guess is, they're made very uncomfortable by Laura Reinbold for all the reasons you mentioned. She's a woman who stands on principle. Well, if she's standing on principle, excuse me, sir, what are you standing on? Right? Nobody likes that question.
And she scares them because she's smart and she's well-spoken and she knows what she's talking about.
And she's in a protected district who is going to love her.
Oh, yeah.
As things start happening from this.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Now, this is a place where you and I are going to disagree. And it has to do from the view of the majority. Okay? Tell me what they did wrong.
I think what they did wrong is they hit too hard back at her.
Dropped all of her staff off, left her with one.
Yeah,
kicked her off every committee.
It's like the nuclear option, kind of, right? You always talk about the nuclear option in different aspects.
Are they doing this for her, or are they doing this for everybody else who's thinking?
They're doing it for everybody else. They're
saying
doing it
for everybody else.
They're worried about what you're talking about, that caucus of 6 or 8 that comes up next year, and they're putting their foot down. Last year, Mike Chenault said, "This is our house." When somebody tried to express their freedom of speech in the House of Representatives. And, he really feels like that. This is, I hold this gavel. I run this house, but it's not. It's supposed to be, 40 representatives representing 40 different views from 40 different districts. And, Mike Chenault just doesn't get that.
All right. Let me give you my view from the majority standpoint. And this is going to sound a little strange because I agree with you. Representative Reinbold did exactly what she should have done.
Oh, yeah.
It's very exciting to me to see. I'm so glad that she did it. She made an agreement. She is a representative, so that means she gets to represent her district. And in her view, the best thing that she could do when she went down to Juneau was to sign on an agreement that said, when we produce a budget, you will vote for the budget. She signed that agreement. And when she broke that agreement, they threw her out of the caucus. And at that point, she didn't even have protection as a minority member would have. At that point, she had no protection whatsoever. They enforced their rules. What's wrong?
The rules are wrong.
The rules are wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's always worked. That's the way it's always gone on.
That's the way it's always been. So it must be right?
No, I don't think it's right. And
no, I know.
That's the point. You see what I'm saying, though, is she did what she should have.
Yes.
Based on her conscience, based on the people she represented, based on what she wants government to be or not be. And they did what was right because they have to run a majority caucus and that everybody agrees to these rules. The question for the people, and this is always the issue that's going to come about, what do the people think of this rule?
Well, number one, do they care?
Okay.
And number two, do they really understand it?
They would never have cared if she didn't quit.
They would have known if she hadn't quit.
I've known about it for forever, and I've never liked it.
Well, because you're engaged in the system.
Exactly.
Those of us that are engaged in the system,
but we're talking about we know filtering down to the levels where people are not paying. All
the guy that watches the 6 o'clock news after he gets home from work, that those guys don't know until something like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have different priorities in life than you and I do sometimes. And so the first question is, do they care? And I think we're still finding that out. We're starting to learn, and it seems like they care a little bit. They're starting to learn about it. They're figuring out where they're at. So if they do care, then
what can they do?
Well, they can speak up. They can call radio stations. They can write to their legislators. They can let them know.
They need to sign on and say, in our district, this is the view of the people who are voting here. And you need to sign a pledge that says you will not accept any budget that cuts less than $400 million. The reason being, not because we hate government, not because we don't like you, and not because this doesn't have to do with anything like we can't afford a $2 billion deficit, which is what your pitiful cuts are going to leave us with.
Yeah.
We can't afford to pay that tax.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why they should do it. So but that's the big question as far as people go. Mike Dingman in studio with me. I'd love to hear from you. 569-1080 here on Free Flower Friday and Fair Game Friday. Can you stay with me?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Awesome. I enjoy Fridays. It's 15 minutes before the hour. You like Friday too?
Fridays are great. Yeah.
I get home after the show. I just fall across the finish line and I go unconscious and I wake up sometime Monday morning. I'm like, what in the world happened? Hey,
where'd that weekend go?
Oh, such fun. It is 14 minutes before the hour. It is the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN, KVNT. If you're looking for somebody to help you with your roof, let me tell you about these guys. Earhart Roofing, 555, a free re-roofing estimate, but a phone call away. Frank, James, and Becky, they can help you with all your roofing needs, industrial, commercial, residential. And it's free. You can get a free re-roofing estimate. All you got to do is call. When you think roofing, think Earhart, EARHART. "11 minutes before the hour, the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN, KVNT. If you are looking to do what's right and to win in this life and the next, well, I'm not talking about the afterlife. I'm talking about this life, your working life, and your next life, your retired life. Country Financial is there just for that purpose. They have been protecting cars, homes, farms, lives, and futures for 85 years. They've got 13 locations across the state of Alaska, 5 here in town, 5 out in the valley. And Mike Daniels and his team of professionals, I sat across from Kent, who was the person who took me through my responsibilities. What did I want to cover? What did I want to protect? And my future. And how did I want it to turn out? What an eye-opening process. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Give them a call. Country Financial, found online at countryfinancial.com. 866-COUNTRY is their number. Country is spelled
COUNTRY.
I don't think she meant that. By the time Friday gets on, turn on his microphone. I don't know why you.
I'm sorry, Mike.
I've offended Bonnie at some
That
point.
was like 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 times is a sign. It's not that she doesn't like you at all.
Clearly.
Okay.
I forget about that microphone.
All right. We're gonna have to do something. Can I get some of those dollars back? She charges me $1 every time I say a certain phraseology.
I want some pizza.
You're not gonna get a pizza because I'm taking $1 back every time I catch you not turning on a microphone.
Oh, that does sound like a good deal, actually.
All right. I like this.
See, like there's
I could end
another,
up getting her to buy me a pizza out of this deal.
there's another radio station in town that has the thing right here, so I can just press on.
Yes.
Which I appreciate.
I like those too. Yeah, because then you can have a little cough button. Actually, your cough button's right over there. So you still have one of those. Mike Dingman in studio with me, 569-1080 and 357-5868. All right. Mayoral predictions for the first round, for round number 1, which you have a surprising one.
I think, I'll say this first. I think Amy Demboski is running an amazing campaign. And I think that regardless of what happens, I think she's probably still a little early in her career. And I think that regardless of what happens, she has set herself up brilliantly for whatever she does next, whether it's running for state office or running for mayor again, or, whatever it is she does. She has gotten the name recognition, the likability. People know that she's fervent in what she believes and that she's intelligent. She's intelligent,
she's clear-headed, and she would
really
never
understands the issues.
Never be found making a butt dial.
No,
in any relation to what.
She won't try to extort money from anybody.
All right, I agree. By the way, I'm supporting Amy. I just want people to know that, but I don't try to let that color. I try to get involved. I feel like it's my civic responsibility. It's my duty to support the person who I consider to be conservative. And then and that's probably stupid because then I have to give disclaimers every time I talk about the mayoral race.
Well, we're here to give opinions, so we obviously have opinions and people we support. I'm supporting Andrew Halcrow. I've been friends with Andrew for a long time. I think he has this business understanding that is lacking in the current field outside of Andrew Halcrow, and he's been involved. He's been in the Chamber of Commerce for the last 2 years, really delving issues that face Anchorage, the chronic inebriates and the problem with downtown bar break. And
now, does he call them chronic inebriates or does he call them homeless?
He calls them the chronic inebriates.
Okay.
I mean,
I agree with you. That is exactly what you should call them.
Some of them are homeless. Some of them aren't. There's a chronic inebriate problem, and we need to solve that. And the housing first thing has worked. Carlick Manor has worked, and one of the things Andrew says is that the reason Carlick Manor works so well is because the people at Carlick Manor have a vested interest in making sure the police don't get called, and so they police themselves. And that's why you haven't heard of a lot of problems at Carlick Manor.
Yeah,
they've done a really good job of policing themselves. The police department is not spending a lot of time there, and they're helping to solve the problem. That's one piece. And if we could get 200 beds just like that, it would put a big dent in the chronic inebriate problem.
Okay.
And you do this with partnerships through nonprofits, and like Rural Cap, the people are doing the Carlick Manor.
Mike, do you want me to make your argument better than you have, if I may?
Sure.
It saves us money.
Absolutely.
When you get right down to it, I just want to lay this out there and just let people know the fact is, even though it seems odd, many of the people who you see on the street corner are out falling into traffic. They're out having epileptic fits. They are out, and they're being picked up.
Yeah.
Could be 150 times a year.
Yep.
And each one of those from our safety patrols has a dollar figure assigned to it.
Yeah.
And, you add that to the fact that they're urinating on, buildings and all kinds of other things. I mean, it really is a blight on the city.
And they're tying up public safety.
Yes.
When they could be responding to more important things, especially when we're hearing about murders, it seems like every day and, every morning.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, there was 2 of them. There was a stabbing
in Fairview
and
yesterday morning, and then something else.
I don't know that they were – I don't think they died because they didn't indicate that they were dead, but they were wounded.
Yeah. And this is happening more and more.
It's
you
a
know?
dangerous city. I got to
Yeah.
tell you, it is.
So-
It's a very dangerous city. So you like Alcro? Now, what is his keyword for the year?
Trust.
Trust.
Because what's more important than trust?
I don't know. Cash.
In your elected officials, what's more important than trust?
Yeah. No, I like courage.
And whether or not you like Andrew, I
That's
think
what I
that I think most people can agree he's a guy you can trust. He's just that guy. And so as far as predictions go, obviously I think Andrew's going to finish in the top 2. And
Okay.
from the people I've talked to and the the rumblings I've heard, it sounds like we're probably headed towards a Ethan Berkowitz, Andrew Halcrow runoff, which would be two very bright guys and could lead to some interesting debates. But Dan Coffey still has a lot of money left, so we'll see what he's got up his sleeve.
I would be surprised. Most people kind of ignore the media. The story that they're playing now is 7 years old and has already been adjudicated. APOC already looked, and no one's brought lawsuits. So there's no claim, as far as I know, that there were either campaign violations or legal violations at this point. He would have to fall an amazing distance to fall to 4th, which is basically what he'd have to do after Amy, after Berkowitz, and after Halcrow, and Halcrow would have to come up quite a bit. Well, that'd be quite surprising.
Well, and this Coffey story that's running around, he told us we
can't play it.
night.
By the way, we cannot play the audio,
Yeah.
and they're still working out the legalities of that. We might play it next week if we have it.
I'll be careful how I word this, but the KTVA story last night. I'll tell you what KTVA said last night.
Okay.
The KTVA story last night said that they were served paperwork from Coffey's attorney saying, "Do not play this audio." So he made it a story.
Yeah.
Dan Coffey made this a story himself, regardless of how old it is.
Well,
he's the reason we're talking about this.
He put part of the transcript up too, and the part of the transcript that he did put up, it includes a lot of expletives. My understanding. I mean, I've got a copy right here, and it's not pleasant to read. Can I say that?
And it's much more not pleasant to listen to, and I think that's why he doesn't want you to hear.
Oh, is that right? See, that was my
because
thought.
He's got that soft spoken. Hey, I'm Dan Coffey.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I've always liked him,
and he doesn't want to hear. He doesn't want you to hear him. Cussing and threatening and saying you're going to do this and 250 a pop. He doesn't want you to hear them.
Wow. Peggy won the My Lord's Floral giveaway. Isn't that good?
You remembered.
I'm so excited that I remembered. It's Friday. It's the end of the day. Got a finish line right ahead of me. God bless you, folks. Have a great weekend. And I'm looking forward to being back on the other side of the glass. Mike Dingman, what a great guest you are. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, folks. 2 minutes before the hour.